I worry that we've put so much pressure on Black women. And, listen, God knows we are pragmatic and God knows we will show up because we have no choice but to
Yes.
show up. But we also have to show the reward too. And there has to be a reward system for showing up sometime, I believe.
I heard a sister say post this past election that she feels like she's in an abusive relationship
Wow.
with the country and with the party.
Mm.
Not that she's not going to vote, she is, but she feels like she keeps giving and voting, and we're the last ones to be invested in. We're the last ones to be acknowledged. And she's like, I don't know how much more abuse I'm going to take from this country.
Coming to you from our nation's capital, I'm so excited to welcome you to a very special episode of At Our Table with Jamie Harrison. And folks, this conversation is going to be a real one. Today, I have at the table some of the most powerful and impressive people there are in Democratic Party politics. You know them as the Colored Girls. They are Yolanda Caraway, Tina Flournoy, Bishop Leah Daughtry, and my Madam Chair, Minyon Moore. We are, of course, missing Donna Brazile. She will be missed, but her presence will still be felt. Now, we'd be here all day if I went through their bios, from campaigns to the White House to the DNC, basically anything political that has happened since the 1980s, these women have been in the room and at the table. And let me tell you, they have no problem speaking up and setting it straight. So I can't tell you how much I am looking forward to cutting up with my sisters today. Ladies, welcome to At Our Table.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
It is so good to have you all here and to be here together. I want to just start with, most people be like, well, Jamie, what are you talking about? Colored girls. For some of these folks, where did that name come from? And give us the backstory on how you all became the Colored Girls.
That's your
Probably Minyon should probably
It's Minyon's
take
story.
that one.
Oh, yeah. It started actually back at the Dukakis-Benson campaign when me and Donna were serving the 1988 campaign. She had came over from Gephardt. I had came over from Jackson. And, it was a group of us, Susan Rice, Janice Mathis, who, National Council of Negro Women, all of us were kind of congregated in our office, and that's kind of where we just ended up. And a group of people came to us one night and told us, listen, you guys got to give this office up because we need to put the chairman in this office. And, we were like, okay, try it. So we said, okay. And, they like to go out and drink after 5. So me and Donna said, okay, they want this office, then we'll go take another office. So we decided to shift down the hallway, and we went and got this big conference table, and we decided to go into this other office, and we just put up the sign, for Colored Girls, we shall not be moved.
Wow. And what was the reaction?
We shall not
They
be
weren't
moved.
moved.
They weren't moved. We shall not be moved. I mean, and the thing that I've since learned is that, that title kind of transcends color.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the color of our skin. It had everything to do with our values and what we believe was important to us. And it was important for us to stand up. And we weren't just standing up for Black women. We were standing up for Black women, we were standing up for Black men, we were standing up for LGBTQ community. Anybody that came in our office, we were standing up for them.
And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand, that particularly people of color, but I think particularly Black women and Black men, that when you're in these rooms where power, that yes, you are there and you're representing, your identity, your group, your community. But sometimes you are also carrying the weight of other communities that may not be at the table as well.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Because you've had the experience of not being at the table or being excluded or trying to be excluded, somebody trying to exclude you. So you do have that, you bring that into the room with you.
And I would say that the important thing about that story, and I wasn't there, but, I've learned from the history, is that it wasn't simply about an office.
That's right.
It was about the fact that this group of people was being moved to another floor and away from where the power decisions were being made. And that would mean that the whole floor of decision makers were not people of color.
That's right.
So this wasn't about we like our office. This was about how are we going to be involved and engaged in the decision-making process of this campaign when we were on another floor.
That's right.
And so, them standing up and saying, no, if you want to win, you need to engage us and include us, and that means us staying on this floor where the decisions are being made.
It seems like a lot of this awareness of your political power, a lot of that, the roots, and Minyon and I talked about this when we honored Jesse Jackson at the convention in 2024. A lot of those roots came from, those seeds were planted in the 1984 and the 1988 Jackson campaigns. Can you all talk about your roles for those of you who participated in those campaigns, but also this sort of awareness and awakeness of Black folks have a position in this party and need to be recognized and appreciated and respected?
Reverend used to say to us, and I'd love for Yolanda to really just come in here, but he used to say to us that we are preparing you to be at different tables. And the truth is, for me, the Jackson campaign gave me a look into what it is like to be at a majority table, because we were running his campaign as though it was a majority campaign that was led by Black and brown people. But, Jerry Austin, who came from, the white community, he brought that ethos. But I tell you, me being a deputy field director for Reverend Jackson campaign was probably no different than being a field director for Al Gore's campaign or Bill Clinton's campaign. You learned all the tenets. We just happened to get them for Reverend Jackson. I don't know if we would have ever been able to sit at the highest levels that we're sitting at had we not been able to get that experience from him and from his campaigns, and even working for him, for me anyway.
My situation was a little bit different. I always tell Minyon, I went from working with the white people to work with the Black people. She went from working with the Black people to work with the white people.
She was shell-shocked.
I was like, ooh, whoa, this is different. But I was working for the DNC, and I was, at that time, met Reverend Jackson in 1984. And then I was executive director of the Fairness Commission, which was the commission that writes the rules for the convention. After that process was finished, I went to work for Reverend Jackson at the Rainbow, and it was baptism by fire. I mean, it was different.
Yeah.
But I got such good training there. I know how to do something with absolutely nothing. I might get a call at 5:00 in the morning saying I want to have a press conference at 9, and we had a press conference at 9. And most of us were fairly new to this. I had worked for the DNC, so I knew about presidential campaigns and everything. But most of the people there were fairly new to this, so it was all a learning experience. And so many people came out of that campaign and did great things.
Ron.
Ron,
Exactly.
right.
And so much him coming out of that campaign, and also what Reverend Jackson negotiated.
Yeah.
Right.
At the 88 convention.
Explain more in terms, because a lot of folks, including myself, may not even know what the Reverend negotiated as it relates to reforms and changes in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, one of the things particularly important was to increase the number of at-large members, and to also make sure the chairman had a real say in who those at-large members were. For the longest time, really until the last few years, a vast majority of the Black members of the DNC were people appointed
As at-large.
at large, coming out of those
They
didn't
didn't come from the
deals
states
with
yeah.
Reverend Jackson. They didn't come from the states, and they were on 20 years. But the numbers changed radically because Reverend Jackson didn't stop at Atlanta. They say thoroughbreds don't stop at the finish line; they keep running. He kept running, and he kept pushing for changes. And then, of course, Ron was elected chair and was able to carry. And Alexis was in the campaign, who also came over.
But you look at
all.
Go ahead.
I would say in terms of what came out of his campaign was the way in which we do delegate selection.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Because of Reverend Jackson's campaign, what he negotiated was an end to winner take all.
Yeah.
And we used to do like the Republicans. You win the most, the highest percentage.
Yeah,
you get
that was it.
all the
All the
delegates.
delegates.
That's
and
right.
anybody who got less than that just
15%.
got zero, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So what he negotiated is what we have still today
That's
is
right.
proportional representation. So if you get 20% of the vote, you get 20% of the delegates.
That's right.
And that made unlikely candidacies like Barack Obama possible.
Wow.
And Hillary Clinton,
And
by the
Hillary
way.
Clinton possible because now you're doing something that really represents how the voters intended their votes to be represented in the larger scheme of things. And we still do that today.
I think he gets far too little
Far too
credit
little credit.
Yeah.
for that.
And you know what else came out of it is mayors,
Yeah. Yep.
congressional members.
That's right.
People, I mean, you talk about people that have coattails. He had real coattails
Right.
coming out of his runs. I mean, you look at all the mayors back in the day that came out of Reverend Jackson's run. You look at all the congressional members. You look at all the state legislators. I mean, people decided to take up their mantle and run for office and won as a result of his presidencies or the run for president.
He really inspired participation.
Yeah.
Not just
Voter
for you to
participation,
run
too.
for office, but the numbers of people he registered to vote.
Yes.
Who then showed up at the polls and elected a Harold Washington or
Yep.
David Dinkins, all these other mayors that came out after his campaign. It was quite remarkable.
He understood the virtue and importance of playing the outside game and the inside. He brought this into the institution, but he was also always on the outside, always on the outside
There was
pushing.
a time in the early 1990s after the 88 campaign when almost every single major urban black city was headed up by a black mayor.
To hear you all tell these stories about the reforms and the movement, I'm thinking about all the Democratic presidential campaigns since. Has there been one that has been so instrumental in terms of actually building the party?
No.
I would give Hillary a little bit of credit for because she actually inspired women to run, and she and President Clinton were party faithfuls, and they were institutionalists. So it was very important to her, I think, even with the campaign, to make sure that the party was strong and that she continued to invest in the party. There was a break, as you know, with one of the presidential candidates, and so she had to come back and do a little bit of a rebuild, but, you know.
And I give President Clinton credit for we were in the wilderness
Yep.
Yeah.
as a party
As a party.
Yeah.
Right. Until he was elected. And, that's when we started building back.
Before there was a Barack Obama, for me, my president was Bill Clinton. That was that was the presidency that I sort of came of age. I was 16 during the Clinton campaign, and that was the first campaign that I volunteered for. I have a picture of me with my Lakers hat on, and I'm registering voters at the Orangeburg County Fair. But in Bill Clinton and hearing his story about growing up in poverty in the South, and I saw semblances of myself, and that, you know, even though all of these myths and stereotypes about Southerners, that here's this guy from the little town of Hope or Arkansas, and it really inspired me to want to get involved in politics more. And the one thing I give both President Clinton and Secretary Clinton, they believe in this party.
Yes, they do.
Anytime
Really
you
do.
ever call them and
Yeah.
ask them to do
Yeah.
anything
That's
for the
right.
party,
That's right.
they will do it. They will put it down and
That's
they will
right.
do it.
Yep.
That's something that you have to admire and you appreciate. And I wish like we can bottle up and replicate.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I talked to some of these people who are thinking about running in 2028, they're thinking about themselves. It's one of these things. Either you are a party builder or you are a personal builder, right? And the one thing I'm telling folks as they come through South Carolina or I talk to them is, if I ever come out and support, then you got to be somebody that I know is going to be down for building this party and building it better. What do you all think about what we need on this notion of party building? Because I seriously believe that the reason why we are in the trenches we're in right now is because we took our eye off of that ball of party building.
That's a good question because it's also a foggy question because we're sitting in the midst of fog right now, and everything seems to be going downward instead of going upward. And what you're hearing, to just be candid, what you're hearing mostly out in the hinterlands is, who is our leader? Who's going to lead us out of this? Where's our message? You're hearing all the things that, unfortunately, the DNC carries the weight for the entire party, which I think is quite frankly unfair. And I thought it was unfair even when I worked here at the DNC. The DSCC has a burden, the DCCC has a burden, and the DGA, the DLCC. All of them have a collective burden. But what you don't have is, we're looking for Bill Clinton. We're looking for Obama. We're looking for Hillary Clinton. We're looking for Kamala Harris. We're looking for all these people that they might not exist as our next champions of this party. It could be coming from you, Jamie. It could be coming from Ken. It could be coming from anyone. But it's hard to break through when you have no, I wouldn't say we have no power, when you don't have any of the institutional levers and any bully pulpits that can help you break through with your messages. And I think that's our biggest challenge right now, breakthrough.
You all have seen a number of DNC chairs. You've seen a number of DNCs when we had the White House, when we didn't have the White House. But I particularly want to focus on the time period of the DNC without the White House. Mm-hmm. You've seen successes and failures. Mm-hmm. What would be your recipe for if you could sit the chair down right now and say, here's what we have seen, here's what I believe that you should do in order to help us become victorious again? And we can do a roundtable if that works, because all of you have spent some time in and around the DNC. So I know you all have various perspectives.
Mm-hmm. We were here, the three of us, with Ron Brown.
Yeah.
When we didn't have the White House.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We also didn't have paper to make copies.
Right. Exactly.
And we didn't have institutional money.
I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
It was my job every week to go to the Hill, to the friendly members, and get reams of paper.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Because we couldn't afford to buy any.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
People would not give us money.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because, alluding to what Minyon just said, Ron Brown, he didn't have the institutional fundraising backing that he had, and we had to build that. Mm-hmm. And he built it, and a lot of, frankly, Black supporters who wanted him to be successful stepped up. Mm-hmm. But there was nothing. And because Ron had the advantage of working for Reverend Jackson, but also he'd worked for Senator Kennedy. Mm-hmm. He was part of the Washington establishment. Mm-hmm. So he also attracted when you think about the staff who was here,
right,
just amazing. The level of the staff, from the communications team to the political team to the fundraising people whom he brought in. And he just had a belief in himself, believe in what he was doing, and he would not be deterred.
No. Mm-mm. And I'll say, Minyon and I were here with Terry McAuliffe, which was, that was the end of big donors.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
And you had to make a hard pivot and a hard shift to how are we going to raise money.
Right.
Because it was McCain-Feingold.
That's right.
And all that.
McCain-Feingold. So we were here during that period. What I would say between Ron and Terry, what they had was a vision.
Absolutely.
A very clear vision that exceeded, we're going to win the White House. It was, they had a vision for the nuts and bolts underneath it. With Ron, it was the coordinated campaign. And we were like, the coordinator, what? What are you talking about?
Right.
But he would call these meetings at Peggy Cooper K. Fritz's house or with Harriman and bring people together and talk them through his vision, and skeptics left enthusiasts. Terry was the
Bishop,
same.
can you tell, because some of our listeners may not know what a coordinated campaign is.
So it was the idea that candidates at all levels, that their campaigns at all levels would coordinate some things, because in the old days, you paid rent, and you paid rent,
Yeah,
and
doing
you
the
paid
economy
rent,
of scales
Right.
kind of
and you
thing.
paid
Right.
rent. It's like- And he said, why can't we
We
all
just
coexist
one
and pay
rent.
one
Yeah.
rent and
Yeah.
use the other money for and on every level, it was a coordination factor.
Paul Tully's vision.
Paul
Yeah.
Tully. And he sold that. Terry's was, we got to get control of the data file.
That's right.
Yeah.
We need a state-of-the-art building. And so
Dimzilla.
Dimzilla. So he had the vision, because remember, Terry came in post-Gore laws.
Yes.
Post-Gore's election being stolen.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so the party was completely depressed, demoralized, and Terry came in with sheer force of personality
And fundraising
and
prowess.
fundraising prowess to set against a vision he had
That's right.
that allowed us all to say, okay, maybe we can win again. Maybe we can do this. We can. And by the time Terry got finished,
I mean, the thing is, Terry would walk in this building and he would see the receptionist and he'd go, Wanda, did you dream about me last night? And the whole third floor would hear that and just knew the chairman was in the building. Did
Absolutely.
you dream about me last night? What did your husband say about it? What did she say?
and he was often the first one here
Yes.
and the last one to leave.
And it's something about bringing joy in a bad time.
Amen to that.
Something about bringing
You know,
joy.
and Ron, and thank, Pamela Harriman.
Yeah.
She hosted that
Yep.
meeting out in Middleburg.
I remember that.
Yep.
Yep.
And out of that meeting came the plan that Paul Tully,
That's right.
the political team, and Ron and the fundraisers put together that they knew they were going to hand to the nominee. Whomever that nominee was, when that nominee was selected, here's the plan, here's how we're going to implement it, and we've got the money to start backing it up.
And all the candidates agreed.
Yeah.
That's
They
right.
all agreed. Whoever looks like they're going to win, we're going to get behind that person.
Right.
And we're going to implement that
Yep.
plan from
Right.
the
Yep.
DNC.
Yeah.
And you need a champion right now.
Yeah.
And see,
Yeah.
Ron, once he's got his footing, there was no one that would not take a meeting with Ron.
No.
There was no convening that he could not do.
That's right.
There was no convening that Terry could not do. There was no convening that Howard Dean could not do.
That's right.
And so there has to be somebody, to your broader question, it has to be somebody that can convene the bigger table, like the coordinated campaign table among leadership, and say, okay, what are we going to do here? What are we doing?
Right.
We know Hakeem, we know you have a big pulley. How are you using yours? Ken, how are you using yours? How is the DGA chair using theirs? And maybe that is happening, but it certainly needs to happen, and especially on the fundraising stuff, because I can tell you, based on the numbers, the Republicans are pouring in the money.
Yeah.
And this cannot all stand on the backs of the DNC. Somebody has to convene this bigger table. Maybe it's Clyburn. I don't know who it is. Maybe it's I don't know, but somebody has to convene their coordinated table.
Yeah. And I would say
Maybe that's an
similarity
idea
between,
for the leadership.
Right. Yeah.
Ron, Terry, and Howard
Yeah.
set a vision and ran after it, but they did not do it by bashing the party.
That's
Right.
well.
And that is
They did it
Well.
by giving us something to believe in and telling us why we were Democrats, why it was important for us to be Democrats, the successes we had, and what we could do in the future. There was no party bashing
That's right.
among the three of them. It was we are looking forward, we are looking ahead, let's go.
But we didn't have the White House with any of them.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's when you want to be chairman, when they're
Well,
when right, when you don't have the
I
White House,
agree.
right?
that's right.
I agree.
So they had,
wholeheartedly.
And that's
they
why-
had much more authority and
Right.
weight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
We
also,
were
I
in
think,
charge.
why it's important to note that they didn't bash the party,
That's
because we
right.
didn't
That's
have
right.
the White House.
That's right.
So they could have, and there's a lot of party bashing going on now. Those three successful chairs did not spend their time
Bash.
Bashing the
bashing
party.
They
fellow
were building.
Democrats.
Why
They
do
were
you
building.
think there is such a trend now in terms of party bashing? It like it's a dagger to the heart to me every time I see somebody who's thinking about running for president, somebody who's standing up and they think, or a new candidate, and they think that the first thing they have to say is how bad the Democratic Party is. Like, well, in what world does that work?
When
To
you're looking for
inspire
someone
people.
to blame
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the state of affairs.
But does it inspire voters to go to the
No,
okay?
No.
none of
the
this
party's
inspires
bad.
anybody to do anything.
And I'm a part of that party. The party's bad though, and I want you to come and vote for me. Why would a voter like what is the rationale behind any of that?
I mean, it's just that it's the time that we're in. It's the way everybody talks. You talk, people badmouth everybody and everything.
Yeah.
Nobody says anything positive anymore.
I think actually Yolanda is probably hitting on something because, we're living in this kind of instant social media world here where everybody is looking for a clickbait. Everybody is looking for somebody to, forward their thing or like their thing. But, some of these campaigns, I think they eerily feel like they're reverting back to the 80s and the 90s, stuff that we passed through. I mean,
We're going backwards.
Yeah, I'm like, Jesus Christ, we're still bashing the party. We're still distancing ourselves from black and brown people. I mean, Jesus Christ, do you know the country is browning? I mean, this stuff is going backwards, but it's because they live in an era where I don't particularly understand it.
There's some folks who said coming out of the 2024 election that the part of the reason why we lost is because the Democratic Party focuses too much on identity politics.
It's not the first time that's been said. The language
They've
has
been
been
saying
different.
that forever.
But it's basically we give too much attention to the base is another way of putting it. That is not a new line of attack.
When you lose, we're always the ones that they attack.
That's always,
but when you're trying to win, we're always the one. We got to get the blacks out. We got to get the browns out.
Right.
You
Always
don't know
last
how
minute.
many nights we sit on a call at a crucial election, and we'd be like, "Have the cities came in yet?
Do we know the numbers in the city?
Do we know the numbers? Because we feel that burden that they don't invest as they should, but we feel the burden of okay, if the cities don't come in, we know we've lost."
How do we change that, though? How do we change the message to allow some of these candidates and people who represent the party to know that, these identity groups that you're saying that we need to not focus on as much, that we should, I guess, ignore or de-emphasize?
First of all, you got to change the language. These identity groups are voters.
Yeah.
So you either want the voters or you don't want the voters.
That's right.
That's just the reality. So, you can do this statistically and look at the numbers and say, I need this many people to come out, or you can look at it as a coalition. You can say it however you want to. But if you need black and brown and women and, the disabled community, LGBTQ community to come out, then call it what you want. Call it data. Call them voters. How about just calling them voters if you don't want to call them black people? Or why don't you just say, well, I need these voters?
Or to quote Bill Clinton, as he often says, add to,
Not
don't
take
subtract
away.
from.
Yeah.
Right.
Add to, don't subtract from. We're not trying to, by investing in, paying attention to these communities, you're not saying that the other communities aren't
not
as important. They are. They're all important.
And there's some realism that needs to be adopted or acknowledged. When you look at the numbers in presidential cycles, the Democratic Party has not won the white vote since LBJ.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You mean when he said by signing this piece of legislation,
We're going to lose
the South forever?
He was right. We have not won the white vote since LBJ. And the way we have won the presidency is through high turnout among black, the base, the identity politics, along with a minority of white folks. So if that's the case, then logic says you better invest in the folks who are making the difference for you, because the white folk haven't been won by us since 1964.
And the presidents who've been elected, the Democrats, have openly said that.
Yeah.
But for these voters,
Mm-hmm.
I would not have been elected.
And if you believe, as I think we all do, that this is not about us versus them, but it's about creating an environment where we all feel welcome, then you will look at your budgets and say, listen, we do need to get some share of the white vote back, but we also know that we have to heavily invest in the communities that we believe in, black women, who we know will show up because we have so much.
90-some-odd%.
Every
we have
time.
so much
Every single
vested
time.
in what we don't. If we don't show up, I mean, we talk about 300,000 women that have lost their jobs since this new administration. So,
So how do we change that in the party's politics? I mean, that's my biggest frustration. And I think all of us, in some extent, worked in or around the 2024 election, and we saw, the party raised almost $2 billion
$2 billion.
when you think about it, between the party and the presidential campaign and some of the super PACs. But yet we know the end results. We know where the vast majority, even though Black women, 90% turnout, Black men 80 some odd in those spaces, but the percentage of those resources, the consultants that were hired, were not reflective of where our votes were coming from.
The same. It's been
Who
the
was
same.
doing the hiring?
Yeah, exactly. It's been the same since I worked for the DNC in 1980, and nothing has changed.
Well, I would argue a little bit, slightly differently, because I think that part of the problem is who you do have at the table and who you do
That's
have.
right.
The budget is the most important part of any apparatus, as you know, Jamie.
Yeah.
And you got to have signature authority. Leah knows this. I know this. You know this, Jamie. If you don't have signature authority, you don't have insight into where all this money is going.
Right.
That's right.
And so part of the equation of changing is you got to have somebody in the room on the money. I guess I done told the whole world the money.
One of the things, and I wish I would have sat down with y'all and talked a little more early on, is when you do have signature authority, you don't sign it away and give it to somebody else.
Right.
Right?
Hello.
And I'm going to be very honest. That is a lesson that I learned, and I learned it too late.
It's
right?
a tough lesson.
And it's a tough lesson, and it's one that to this day I still struggle with. You get in this room. The DNC is a convener of all of this money, and then you sign that signature authority over to other folks.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a difficult and a challenging thing, and so.
Well, Oprah told us that. Sign your own checks.
Right.
Sign your own
Right.
checks. It's
Right.
really
Yeah.
important.
Yes,
Yeah.
But it requires that it's everything, Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the basic, what are our pipelines? Meaning, how many people do we know that go into digital? How many people do we know who are
In
doing
media.
this kind of accounting? How many people are doing media? How many people are doing polling? So when you start building whatever you're building, your campaigns, your PACs, whatever, what's the pipeline? What is the pipeline?
It all depends on who your chair. You were in an unprecedented situation, so we can't even put you in this box. But it depends on who your chair is, too. Because when we talk about Demzilla, do you know that Cherry went out and found, I don't know where he found this kid. It was a Black kid. It was a Black firm that built Demzilla, even though we done tossed Demzilla. It's now in ancient history now. But and the truth is, it starts from the top. You have to set a tone from the top. And I don't think, and Leah can attest, and Yolanda, there was never a time where I felt like, especially under the Clinton administration, under Terry's administration, that I felt like we could not overinvest or over-index in communities of color. But it really depends on the leadership. It really does.
Howard Dean, one of his first major decisions was who was going to do our polling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he picked Cornell.
He picked Cornell Belcher, which gave us...
Let's back that up. He did after a dinner in which we introduced him to Cornell.
Yeah. And we maybe have to, that's actually a pinpoint.
I mean, this is an important point.
This is important. And the way that Cornell saw data, collected data, and shared data was different than anything we'd seen before.
Yeah.
And it led us to different decisions. And I remember there was a meeting that Howard Dean had in the Wasserman with all of the party leaders, D-Trip, DS, House Senators, and Cornell did the presentation. And Harry Reid, who I love, like cook food, said, who is he? He didn't know Cornell. He wasn't familiar with his work. But Cornell's work gave us a different path line and insight into how we plan for the presidential.
And this is why you need a diverse group of folks at the table with diverse backgrounds. And that doesn't just mean, because sometimes I think in politics now, people think of diversity. That means, okay, I need to find some Black person to sit at the table. But Black folks are also diverse with different experiences and backgrounds
and opinions.
And opinions.
Right. Which is not often acknowledged.
No.
Right.
But you really need... Howard Dean, we had a relationship with before he won the chairmanship. And then when he won the chairmanship, we were able to say, here's some people you should meet. Think about this, think about that. And he was open to it, which was, really important.
Yeah.
Ron Brown, and I just think that he gets too little credit for this. When we went to New York for the convention, his CEO was a Black woman. His general counsel was a Black woman. His deputy CEO was a Black woman. His hall manager, which never unheard of, that's an architect, was a Black woman.
And our CFO.
And our CFO was a Black woman.
And it was a successful convention.
And it was a successful convention because you know what he said? This is going to be a successful convention because I'm the chair and the mayor of New York City is David Dinkins.
We will not fail.
We will not fail. Bottom line.
Well, when we think about all of our successful conventions in over the last few decades, I mean, we got 2 Black women who led those conventions sitting right here. Leah was CEO for a convention in 08
and 16.
and in 16. And then, of course, my Madam Chair, who's
we were partners in crime with that one, though. But you know what was fascinating about 2024 and all of these conventions? We never did it by ourselves.
Yeah.
Whether it was you having my back, whether it was Leah having, whether it was Tina, we always hit, little Alex Hornbrook, who was executive
Alex
director.
was
I
great.
love my little Alex.
I
love you,
Alex. Too. Alex is,
yeah, but the fact is, what's going on now is people that get in leadership, and I want to say this because people that get in leadership don't understand having minds like a Leah and a Tina and a Yolanda with us, the chairman, it's just invaluable. I mean, me and Alex called Leah into the office one day. She just looked at us like, first of all, she said, when you need me there? I said, maybe about a month out, I was like, you think I cared about anybody thinking she was taking anything from me? No, I needed that experience.
Yes.
And so me and Alex had a meeting with Leah. I'll never forget this because she looked at us like we were just straight out crazy. Well, what do y'all want me to do? Well, we had about a whole... It was hilarious. But we gave her all the big names, all the people that was coming, because we and the next thing we know, Leah had all these things put up on her board, Oprah, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton. Then we had Yolanda, who was doing the speaker's viewer. We had Tina, who was running the whips. And then we had the chairman who was dealing with all. I mean, literally, it was the most beautiful team of people.
It really was. It really was.
It could have been a disastrous convention, but I had no fear because I knew all of these people, and nobody had ego and titles.
That's the
It was
thing.
just beautiful.
That's where I was
beautiful.
going to go and just make a point. This is so important. When there's a need and people need help, we need help, we lean in.
We just show up.
It was
show up.
It was like a family. I tell people every time that convention for me was like a family reunion.
Yeah.
It really was. And when in a family, when something needs to be done, you just pitch in, you roll up your sleeves, and you get it done. And it did bring me so much joy and comfort to see Leah there because then I just knew that nothing would fall through the cracks.
Absolutely.
Like she would get everything like, y'all need to be thinking about this. You need to talk to this person.
Yeah, and we had a lot of things done, but let me tell you, people seeing around the corners was a godsend. A godsend.
It really was. Speaking about women and women in politics, and I want to talk about women in politics globally, but also Black women in the party. Black women are often lauded as the backbone of the Democratic Party. Tell me what that means to you all and how you feel about that. Because people say it, but then...
It means we do the work.
We show up.
We show up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
we're called upon.
It's not just the Democratic Party. We do all the work everywhere. Organizations, I mean, it's always the women in the back room doing all the work.
But I think we're also probably the party's most pragmatic voters. So we're not looking for perfection in a candidate.
That is...
we don't have to align on every single issue, but will this candidate help move our communities forward? We can work on the issues we don't like,
Yeah.
but this is the person that we think will move us forward and that can win and that we can help win. And so I think our voting and our work for the party is very, common sense and pragmatic in how we move. And as Yolanda said, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it. So we're going to work.
I often talk about that pragmatism when looking at the presidential primary, and I tell folks, they like to say, well, South Carolina, they're really Southern Democrats. No, they're really conservative on the political spectrum. No, they're pragmatic. And the bulk of those black voters down there are black women who vote. And they just want to know, are you going to fight for me? Are you going to fight for my community? Are you going to work? Do you have a chance to win? Right? I'm not going to waste my vote on somebody that I don't think you got to. And that's just a really important thing. And I see that across the board as it relates to black women.
Yeah.
And we got to figure out, too, how we keep them inspired, because it's also very tiring to know that everybody says, oh, black women will show up, we'll give 94%, and then the bread is still too high, the eggs are still too high, they still
The rent's too high.
Yeah, they still have to take their kids, to
300,000 of us are out of jobs.
Yeah, so I think that we do have to, because I worry that we've put so much pressure on black women. And, listen, God knows we are pragmatic, and God knows we will show up, because we have no choice but to show up. But we also have to show the reward, too, and there has to be a reward system for showing up sometime, I believe.
I heard a sister say post this past election that she feels like she's in an abusive relationship with the country and with the party. Not that she's not going to vote, she is, but she feels like she keeps giving and voting, and we're the last ones to be invested in. We're the last ones to be acknowledged. And she's like, I don't know how much more abuse I'm going to take from this country. And we're losing jobs.
That's heavy.
We're going backward. And how do tell me something why I should keep engaging, because this just feels like I'm in a cycle of abuse. And I didn't even know how to.
Well, not using those same words, but that's how the quote unquote disinfected voters started moving over to Trump.
It's interesting to that point, and I think it was Terrence that said something about this in his polling. We used to go after the marginalized voter and the disaffected voter. The marginalized, disaffected voter is still there. Now you have a growing number of voters who are just discontent. And that's the average middle class black woman or average informed voter. And that's what's a little bit scary, because the informed voter is now just like questioning their judgments. And I think, again, I think so much of this relies on how we lead, and we gotta think about that, and
how we talk to people and how we make them feel that we really want them there. That we're not worried about, the list of terms that some group put out recently that I know you have all seen.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we are campaigning.
Well,
And that you're not going to run from me.
Right.
And start calling me part of an identity group.
yeah.
Right.
I think about the leadership that you all have brought over the years to the party. Have you ever, and many times it's been behind the scenes, supporting other candidates. Have any of you ever thought about running for office yourself?
No.
Never.
That was quick.
No.
That was quick.
No.
Not at all.
Not even as a gag.
Right.
No.
Nope.
Why?
Because we know what it takes, and we
Right.
know what it takes in terms of the toll on you, what it
Yeah.
takes away from your
I
own
couldn't do
life.
it.
And you can get more done.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Get
Right.
more done. Helping the right people
Right.
get it done.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
You
I'd rather
know,
be a kingmaker
Yeah.
than a king.
well, everybody, what's the quote your mother always says about everybody having a role?
Yeah.
Everybody on stage in the play, everybody's got
Yeah.
a role, and they
Yeah.
all need to be filled.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you find the place where you're most comfortable, think you can be most helpful, and that's your role.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I was so appreciative of, and thinking about 2024. One, being able to work with Minyon last year was so important to me in so many ways, because not only was she our convention chair, but she was also the co-chair of the Rules and Bylaws Committee, which for folks who don't know much about DNC probably is the committee at the DNC. Really, you are run by your rules, and the Rules and Bylaws Committee really pushes the bulk of the meat in the organization. Well, in a year in which you have your presidential nominee decide to step out,
switch,
and that's what we call it, the switch.
The switch.
Right.
So July 21, 2024 was the switch, having them step out, and then you're weeks before the deadline for getting on the ballot in one state, and a few weeks before a convention. You need to have the confidence that you're co-chair of your Rules and Bylaws Committee. And luckily, we also had Leah, who was also the co-chair of the Convention Rules and Committee.
With Tim Walz.
Walz.
Right.
I tell everybody, if you want to be vice president, be co-chair of the Rules and Bylaws Convention Committee.
But I can't tell you how, as being chair of the party in that time, because people, the whole world's looking at what your organization does at this moment.
And no one understood it.
And nobody understood it. And people were making up all kinds of stuff. Many primary here and this and that. And I mean, all kinds of stuff that we can create. One, people should know there were 50 primaries that were already done.
That had already
have
happened.
been completed.
Right.
Yep.
Right? And none of those states were saying, oh, DNC, do you want to pay for 50 new primaries?
Right.
One, we could not have afforded 50 new
And
primaries.
try to take that to a state.
Yes, exactly right. South Carolina pays for the primary. The DNC doesn't pay for that.
Right.
And then people will go, you can just do this and you can create this. It's one of those things that civics is important.
Absolutely.
Oh,
and most of these people walking around here talking about politics, I just wrote a Substack about it, talking about politics, and don't have a damn clue.
Really good.
They don't have a clue about how any of this stuff works. And they think we sit in smoky rooms and we create all kinds of things that, no, there's rules.
There's rules.
And Leah and Minyon are like queen of the rules. I love Mignon's Facebook post.
I have to stop you, Jamie, because part of what people have missed about your leadership during that period, and I try to say this now that it's somebody that wrote about it, during that period, it's really where a leader has to surface because it was mass confusion about what the other candidates was going to do. Jamie Harrison called, and I know the vice president did a lot of calls, but he called and set the table for whether or not we were going to have a brokered convention. He never gets the credit for it because I'm like, somebody got to call these people. We got to know who's in and who's out. And Jamie raised his hand and he called every last one of them before anybody started trying. And we knew that day.
We knew that day whether or not we were going to have a...
And I thank you for that, Jamie.
No, well, I thank you for the guidance that Jamie, we need to know.
That was leadership for me in terms of a very critical point.
I mean, it could have been a mess because there were some very powerful voices and forces in our party who wanted stuff that our rules did not create.
Rules did not allow. And that's the thing that I always tell people. We have rules for this, and we had rules before the switch even happened.
Right.
There were rules for how such a process would unfold, and those rules involve anybody who want to run can run.
That's right.
So Jamie's leadership here let me and Governor Walz know what the deck was likely to look like.
That's right.
Based on the conversations we had.
That's right.
But we had put out a process that said this is how this is going. Anybody who wants to put their name in the hat,
that's right.
Put your name in the hat.
Yeah.
And we
everybody got an opportunity to do that.
Everybody, and we set timelines and deadlines. So everybody had a chance to run if they wanted to run.
That's right.
And we knew from his conversations that it was very unlikely that there were going to be a whole lot of candidates.
No.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And they really didn't have the mechanism.
No.
Right.
I mean,
At that
Yolanda,
point,
you might have been at the convention when we had to replace a vice presidential candidate.
Yes.
Was that 1984? Yeah.
Yes.
And the DNC had to play that role. The DNC was always going to be the entity that had the authority and the ability.
That's right.
And not only did most of these political people not understand it, the press did not understand these rules at all.
No.
And they were just churning. And when
Yeah.
you took the time, if one of them actually
Ask
asked the question and you said, this is how, it was like, oh my goodness. So this ultimately lands with the DNC? Yes. And those rules were not created this year.
And had we gone through a convention and ended up with a process then this would have been his process.
That's right.
That's what people don't get.
That's
it would have
right.
been Jamie's process.
Let's start where you started. Votes had already been cast. How many votes so you're going to just say none of those votes matter?
Right.
Because and they said, well, the poll said. So you're saying the millions of people who went to the polls to
Took
vote
the time to do it. Yeah.
is less than the poll of 500 or 600 people that you did with some
Random.
random sample. That your poll is more important than the actual votes that have been cast in primaries.
And when people go to the polls to elect the president, to elect the nominee, they are really electing the delegates who are going to cast votes for a nominee. So if something happens to the candidate, which our rules lay out, then that delegate now is free to vote for whoever.
Right.
But it's that delegate who has been elected by the people of their state.
And most of the people don't understand that.
They don't understand.
No.
And thus, that endorsement that he made 12 minutes later freed the delegates to go to Vice President Harris.
And to her credit, she worked it.
That's right.
She worked it. If anybody else wanted to run, they could have run.
Right.
They could have got on their phone and they could have called.
Because his
but she worked
endorsement,
it.
while important and critical to her success, was also not a command.
No,
That's
we
right.
don't do that.
No, we
That's
don't
right.
do that in
That's
our part.
right. That's
we
right.
don't do that in our part.
This goes back to something we've been discussing that you've sort of leaned into is all the work that gets done behind the scenes. Holding it together, despite craziness, all the craziness around you, holding it together until a real process can be put in place.
I'm constantly pushing people, understand these rules. Understand these rules, because the people who win the game are the people who know the rules and know how they operate and how to operate within them. And I think many of our young politicos, they're so ambitious and want to get out there, but they don't take the time to understand the process. And I think that is really, really important.
And look, this is a nod to just longevity because we've been doing this so long. You know, of the 5 of us, 3 have been Rules and Bylaws chairs. 4 have been on the Rules Committee.
I've been on the Rules Committee. Yeah.
You on rules too?
Rules
I
and
was.
Rules
So
and
that means
Bylaws.
So all 5?
Mm-hmm.
So what did it mean for you all, though, when 12 minutes later, when the president came out to say that he was supporting? Because, you know, some people saw the initial, now y'all may have known some of the background, but some people saw his statement, he's getting out, oh God, you know, what happens? What was it when 12 minutes later?
Well, ironically, another person who gets the least amount of credit, David Wynn, he was actually at the convention office the day that all of this was happening. And once the president said, I endorse the vice president, then the delegates election operation turned over to her. So he immediately put those young people to work, calling each and every one of the delegates to see where they stand. And she was simultaneously doing this. She was calling, you know, like elected officials and leaders, but he was calling the day-to-day state-level delegates to see where they stood. And he knew pretty much at the end of the day that most of them were going with her. And this is where I give Kim Martin a lot of credit, too, because he locked down all the state chairs.
State chairs.
He locked them down.
I think they were the first major group to come out and endorse.
And if the president hadn't done that, it would have been kind of a free-for-all, at least for a period.
They still would have had to be inside the rules, but this allowed her to know and her campaign to know, you know, what the vote tally was going to be. Because in the end, you got to know how to count.
That's right. Because it is about the counting.
It is about the counting and the numbers. So while me and Tim were off creating this process for by X date, you got to turn your name in as a candidate, blah, blah, blah. The president's political operation had been turned over to her so David Wynn can do his thing.
And it would have been had other folks gotten in, it would have been a very different convention.
Yes. Come on. It would have been messy.
Yes.
Mess.
One thing that Congressman Clyburn called me, when he called me to let me know that the president
Had called him.
So Clyburn, it was Jim Clyburn's birthday. And I had just called him early that morning to wish him a happy birthday, and I thought he was just calling me back to say, "Oh, thank you, whatever." And he says, "Well, this is one hell of a birthday." I said, "Well, I see everything's okay." He said, "Well, I just got off the phone with Joe." I said, "The president? Yeah. Well, he's not running." I said, "What?" He said, "He's not running." I said, "Oh my God. When is he going to announce? What is he going to do?" He said, "Well, he's going to send out one statement and it's going to come out. And then shortly after, he's going to send out a second statement saying that he supports the vice president." And I was like, "Oh." Now, and Clyburn said to me, he said, "Now, I don't know if you've been thinking about what you're going to do if this situation happens, but if you haven't, you better start thinking now."
Right.
And I said, "Well, luckily, Madam Chair Minyon Moore and I, we've been noodling. Just a worst case scenario if this happened, because we wanted to be prepared." And I said, and I'm going to get on the phone with her, and we're going to figure out what we need to do in terms of next steps. But I mean, and my other thought was, now, I got my DNC hat, but my other thought is, if it weren't her, that $100 million that Joe Biden had in the bank and all of that campaign staff could not have gone to anybody else.
That's right.
It would have gone. It would have gone away,
Right.
and everybody would have to start from zero.
Right.
Every
Which is
single
another
person.
nugget that they didn't know, quite frankly.
No,
They didn't know.
like none of the staff. You can't inherit any of those staff. All
And
of
it was
them.
really historic on his part that he had her name as part of his campaign.
That's exactly right.
Corporate
That's right.
apparatus.
That is
That's
exactly
Because
right.
most times the nominee doesn't do
have
that.
That's right.
That was never, and that was never mentioned.
So,
right.
it was automatic that it would go to her because she was part of the corporate structure
That's right.
of that campaign.
Look, and to be fair, we've all lived. This is what we've done.
Yeah.
So you can understand why the average Joe is not.
Yeah.
This is arcane stuff for most people. But there are some people who should have known or could have taken the time to know before running.
And the media could have done a better job.
That's where I'm really leaning into.
Yeah.
They could have done a better job.
Yeah.
The media was just piss poor for the entirety of these 4 years. They wanted to talk about Joe Biden's shoes more than talk about the accomplishments and the other things that are important. Well, listen, so we give out the weekly Sit Your Ass Down Awards. And so now, since we have the four of you here, this goes, your recipient, you don't have to think long and hard about it, but your recipient is somebody who you just believe need to get themselves together, to calm themselves. So I'm going to give you a second to think about it. Who wants to come off with your first recipient of the Sit Your Ass Down Award from the Color Girl?
I'll go first.
Oh, good.
And this is to a group of people.
Okay.
As you know, I am a native New Yorker, born and raised.
Yes.
And we're in the middle of our mayoral primary.
Oh, God.
And I am endlessly fascinated by the people who think they should have something to say about who our mayor ought to be, even though they do not live or vote in the city of New York. So to all of those people, I want to say, we have several stadiums and arenas with thousands of seats, and I invite them all to sit their ass down.
I love that.
I love that. I'm not ready.
I'm not. I got too many. Well, actually,
Okay.
everything Jeffrey Epstein. I'm just sick of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
They all just need to sit their asses down.
Madam Chair.
I just don't know, Jamie. I mean, because there is so many people I could probably name. And
Just the first in your mind.
I tell you, honestly, all I keep saying, and this is probably so politically incorrect, but I just want ICE to sit their ass.
There you go.
I just do.
There you go.
I do. Just leave these people alone.
It is. I talked to
I'm
a good friend the other
sorry.
day who does civil rights stuff and immigration
Yeah.
stuff out in L.A., and he was just telling me some of the stories, and
It's awful.
it just breaks your
These
heart.
Yeah.
people
It really breaks your
alone.
heart.
Yeah.
I
Miss Tina?
don't have anybody on my list. I am feeling
That's
very,
because she's retired and she's
I know.
traveling.
I'm feeling very charitable
Yeah.
right now. I mean, I just, on most days I have multiple candidates,
Right.
That is true.
and it runs the gamut,
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I would be hard pressed. I mean, everybody who is treating people badly because of where they think they came from, where they think their economic status is, people who just take a pleasure in making somebody else's life hard
Yeah.
and difficult. I want all of them to sit their ass down.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank
And
you.
that's a broad spectrum.
No, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In your lifetimes, and I know how important politics are to each and every one of you, but also women in politics, and because you are women in politics, and you have been developing the next generation of the colored girls, right? You really, who are many of my dear friends that of my generation, and we are cutting our teeth in politics. In your lifetime, will we see a woman president?
I think so.
Yeah.
I actually think so. I've been working on a project just to answer that question because what came out of the 2024 election was that, oh God, we don't need another woman because we've lost to a man who seems to not be,
Yeah, right.
But I think so. But, when and how. But I believe so. I have to believe so.
I'm sitting here trying to calculate life expectancy.
Mm-hmm.
I do find it absolutely amazing. I remember vividly as a child, 1967, the 6-Day War in Israel. Golda Meir
Yeah.
was the leader of that country.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, let's go through Mexico right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
There have been so many women presidents in South America, in Africa.
Yeah. Liberia,
It's-
yeah.
It's kind of stunning
Mm-hmm.
that we have not
There's
had
a problem,
that.
though,
There's,
right?
yeah,
Why?
Mhm. Yeah, there's a problem. I think there's
there's
a
a
problem.
problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're a relatively young country,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's our puritanical, patriarchal system that we brought over
Mm-hmm.
as we were trying to get away from
Mm-hmm.
England, which had women monarchs and all,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to come over here and do something different and be something different. And that I don't think we've ever been able to break away in any kind of meaningful way from the patriarchy
Mm-hmm.
that the colonists brought over
Mm-hmm.
back in the 1500s or the
Yeah.
1400s.
And, I think it's important, too, when you think about it, we really connect our presidency so closely with commander-in-chief
Yeah.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right.
in a
That's
way
right.
that other countries
That's
don't.
right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
And
you think that's part of the barrier?
I think it is. I think it is
Oh,
part of it.
absolutely.
I do.
mean, you got to see it to believe it, and
Right.
the only time you see it is when you're looking at TV,
Mhm.
and that can be skewed on any different occasion.
Right.
But if you don't have a visual of what it looks like,
Yeah.
and,
I mean, look how long it took. The first woman member of the cabinet was FDR.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When did we get another one?
Yeah.
It took
Took forever to
many
get
years
Yeah.
for that.
senators and governors,
And-
right? And-
Yeah.
Secretary of State.
Yeah.
I remember when the LGBT community, and it was actually just gay and lesbian back in the day, when they first decided that they wanted their place at the table, and they started, trying to be a part of the ecosystem. One of the things that they did was they went out to Hollywood and started trying to figure out how Hollywood was portraying them in movies and in characters. And part of what I think we have to do is really think about how we want to project a female commander-in-chief, project a woman president, and who are the people that can help lift that up. Because it's not just about men can't see it. it is really about women can't see
There's
it.
women who
Yeah,
can't
right,
see it either.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
and so I think
Right.
it's a psychological shift. It's a
Mhm.
it's a mental shift. But I do believe that there are some women that can run this country equally as well as a man.
I agree.
Oh, I totally agree
Better.
with that.
Absolutely.
I
A
could
lot
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the 2024 race. We know the vice president ran, and one, I just want to say on the record how proud I am of her because she poured her whole self
Oh, yeah.
into that
She
race.
did.
I mean, I saw her out on that campaign trail, and I mean, what she did was nothing short of miraculous of having that type of short runway, and she poured everything she had into it. The question, the newsmakers and the pundits are all trying to question and read the tea leaves, is Kamala Harris going to run again? So just your thoughts, your input, if you'd like to provide any insight on whether or not you think, will she run? Should she run?
She's still relatively young. I mean, I don't necessarily think she should run in the next presidential election, but, she still could run at some point. I thought she was a magnificent candidate.
I have no idea. No, I mean, I'm quite serious. And probably at this moment, she doesn't know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's probably spot on.
There's anybody who has done this,
Mhm.
who has run, who has served. This is not easy. And there's so many variables that go into it and so much you have to think about. And I would say that even all the people that we would talk about, other people who you think they're making this plan, they're giving this signal they're going to run, they don't know completely that they're going to run. They don't. So I think that would be an absolutely normal place for her to be, and I'd be surprised if she was anywhere else at this point.
I think that she spent her entire life in public service,
Mhm.
most of it in elected office. And she's got much more to give, I think, on whatever platform she chooses. Is she going to run again? I don't know. I think the only person that can answer that is her.
Yes, sir.
I actually think that's right. I mean, listen, I guess should she run? If she decides to run, I mean, will she run? I think it's so early right now.
Yeah.
We went through, we've gone through Hillary losing, and there is a process that they go through to, and they really have to really dig deep and search their souls. And, so much of it is, they blame themselves, then they pick themselves back up and all of that. But I think this book tour is going to be good for her. I think, her getting out there, that might determine whether she chooses to run or not, because she might just decide she loves being, a free agent and a person that can use her own mic any way she wants.
Yeah.
But I agree with Leah and Tina and Yolanda. I have no idea whether she's going to run or not. But she has the option to keep her option.
Yeah.
open.
And I know it's hard.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
listen, I am faced with that question many times. People are like, well, Jamie, are you going to run again? And I poured everything I had into that race. I mean, literally, and it was hard on me. It was hard on my family in particular. And you put so much of yourself out there, and to get the negativity, to get all of the other things,
Right.
You folks now saying, well, you shouldn't have run, you didn't run a good campaign and this and that. And that's hard to process that when you put everything you had into it.
That's right.
Right? And I'm sure she's getting some of that same thing. I mean, sometimes the things you read online, what people say, sometimes I wish social media would just go away, the way the dinosaurs.
Time out.
Yeah, the social media sit your ass down. I mean,
Right.
because
I would go with that.
Yes, I mean, it really is it provides people an opportunity to say the nastiest things that they would never say to you in your face. They would
No,
never say in person.
They hide behind their
Right.
keyboard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's really sad. So I hope she takes this moment, because there's some healing in after a run like this.
Yeah.
And I hope she just
Absolutely.
processes
Yeah.
what's going on. Any last little tidbit, anything that you all are working on that you want to throw out there, that you want to toss out as something
Sports prices are too high.
You got any project that you
Well,
want to?
I started this group called Rise United
Tell us
last year.
quickly about it.
We work with content creators, and we're trying to basically teach them civics and how to use their voices for political stuff. And I would love to come back and bring a couple of them.
I would love that. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Rise United. And what's your website?
RiseUnited.us.
RiseUnited.us. We really need to do that. Training is necessary and help
Pipelines.
people. Pipelines, so important.
Yep.
Madam Chair, you got anything?
I've actually been working with Miss Angela Rye quite a bit
Oh.
on State of the People. All three of us have.
Yeah.
And I'm actually really inspired. Even though we got the chat groups, you take away the chat groups.
Lord have mercy.
Don't Angela's gonna be upset.
We're not taking away your chat groups, Angela. But the truth is, the inspiration behind what she was trying to do, which is get back to the people and really fill the gap on where we need resources, I think is commendable. And I really do love the vision of that. And
Me too.
So I hope we keep doing
Angela
it.
she's a treasure. She
Yeah,
really
she really is.
Yeah.
Special.
And when with Black women, we all
Yes.
did
Yeah.
that. We love to take in all of that.
Well, besides my church work,
Yes.
Bishop. Right.
I'm celebrating our church's 95th anniversary.
Wow.
Coming pretty soon, which is my 5th anniversary. Continue my work with Black women. So we Power Rising, which is a gathering
That's right.
space by, for, and
Next
about Black
year.
women, is April 2026. Go to
Hey,
our
are you,
website.
Are you in Chicago?
We're
Or
in Chicago.
Yeah, I thought I saw
We're
that.
in
Yeah.
Chicago. And auxiliary to that, we've created the Black Women's Leadership Collective, which is an organizing hub for all the national Black women's organizations. So we're doing a lot of work together. And this past weekend, we launched our first training series
Wow.
in North Carolina to help Black women
Your
who
neighbors.
want to run for office get the skills that they need. So we're really excited about that. And you can find us at Black Women's Leadership Collective.
Well, and please let there's roundhead Black boy from South Carolina. If I can help, let me know.
Absolutely.
Let me
Come
know.
to Power Rise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
we
have a
love
good
to
time.
have.
No, I know
We
y'all
let
do.
a few men in.
Last thing, y'all had lunch with President Biden, right? Right, one of the last things right before he left the White House. How was that?
Wonderful.
good.
It really
It
was
was great.
wonderful.
Grilled cheese and tomato soup.
Grilled
Yeah.
cheese and who
First-
came up with the menu?
First of all, is there a better lunch?
Oh no.
No, yes,
no.
it is a better lunch, and I'll be the first to say it.
No.
They went cheese.
Yes, it is.
I was so happy.
Yeah, it's a
Grilled
better lunch.
cheese, grilled
I'm not a
cheese,
grilled cheese
I
fan.
love
too.
grilled cheese and
And
tomato soup.
soup.
I was not expecting it in the White
exactly.
House.
No.
So
I
happy.
did
kept
when I was a kid.
envisioning cutting the edges off the bread, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what? It's just, sorry, President Biden, I love you, but lunch was not for
I
me.
loved it. This is Tina. I loved it.
This is Minnie. I was just playing.
This is Leah. Next time, add pepper jack cheese.
But I tell you, what was fascinating was 2 hours, and you know how a staff person wants to come
Come
give
in,
you the
yes,
hook.
and interrupt.
There was no hook in
There was
there.
no hook.
There was no night at the
And-
Apollo.
No, and the,
Yeah,
and the
I tell
stories
folks
and
all
the
the time.
accomplishments and God,
Yeah.
wisdom.
I appreciate and
Yeah.
respect and value President Biden so much.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was a very, very special man, and I don't think he gets his credit. Yeah, people say, well, he should have left, but when you think about what he did and how he did it and why he was doing it,
Right.
That's right.
I mean, you think more Black women appointed to the courts
Yep.
than any other president.
Shout out to Justice
Yeah.
Jackson,
I mean,
who's holding
Justice
it down.
Ketanji Brown
But
Jackson.
even down further in
Yeah.
the courts.
That's
I
right.
mean,
I mean, when you think
Michelle
about it,
Childs.
Michelle Childs.
Mhm.
You think about DNC chairs.
Yep.
What president actually appointed a Black DNC chair?
Mhm.
None until Joe Biden.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And for me,
Yeah.
I mean, changing South Carolina. I mean, there's the money to HBCUs, and we now see Trump going after HBCU money. I mean, he wiped away the capital debt
That's right.
of HBCUs.
That's right.
That's debt that some of these schools have been holding on
That's
for
Mhm.
generations. Like,
That's right.
Mama went there, graduated there, had the debt.
Mhm.
Daughter goes there now, and they still
That's
had the
right.
debt. And then this president comes by. So
And I think we all left there sort of saying the same thing. He knew why he did
knew
what he
his
was
why.
doing.
Yeah.
He knew his
He knew-
why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew
Yeah.
his why.
He just knew his why, and it was the why of his life, you know. And that's so important.
I hope one day that the press and those of us who have had the opportunity to get to know him will write that this man's love of country surpasses every decision he made, and he really loves this country.
He really does.
And being a commander-in-chief and being a president, your first order of business is to love your country because you are representing this country. And he did it admirably as far as I'm concerned.
It was just wonderful. It's just the word. And he was so kind and welcoming. Come into the Oval Office.
Donna stole all the chocolate chip cookies. I just need to put it on the record.
Ask for
the candy. Yolanda took the candy.
A bag.
I mean,
ask for a bag.
You would have thought we were homeless people leaving that Oval Office. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Ask for a bag.
They gave her one too.
Yes.
Stole all the chocolate.
All the cookies.
All the cookies. And we're like, well, Donna, are you going to give us?
No.
She was getting on the plane.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And she's enjoyed a particularly close relationship with him, too. Over the years.
Yeah. Well, and Donna, we miss you from this conversation.
No, we don't. Yes, we
Nobody
do,
else would have gotten it.
I know.
We miss you, DV. We miss you.
Do.
Well,
psych.
Well, my friends, thank you again for being at our table. This has been so
great.
much fun. I can't wait for this episode to come out. And I think one of the things is people are going to, they need to, folks, get your notebook out because this is one of those episodes in which you're going to school. You're going to learn a lot about how this party operates.
And go get the book.
Yeah. Oh, yes, your book.
It's basically a tutorial.
Yes.
For colored girls who consider politics.
For colored girls who consider politics. Thank you all again. This was so much fun. Really, really appreciate it.
You.
And until next time.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yes, thank you
so much. You will never have a podcast like this again.
Oh. If you enjoyed today's show, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere you find your podcast. To be the first to know who will be at our table next, find us at ourtablepodcast.com. At Our Table with Jamie Harrison is a production of Vision Blue Media. Our founding executive producers are Jason Hayter and Jamie Harrison. Our producers are Kyle Kelly and Emily Harrell. Our content consultants are Ernie Grigg and Clay Middleton. Our digital communications are led by Celie Riccio. Neil Rossini of FWRV LLP provides production legal. Title sequence by Tom Hunt. Our theme song, Blonde Gone, is written by Dewey and published by Alibi Music Library. We recorded this episode at the DNC Studios in Washington, D.C. Thanks to Curtis Bradley Brown, Johnny Wood, and the DNC Studios team. Very special thanks to the Colored Girls and their teams. I'm Jamie Harrison, and I look forward to another conversation at our table.